Hello, in this video we will show you how to create a new buyer and then how to amend or define buyer approval limits for this new buyer. So from purchasing model, utilities, purchase documents, constant setup, you have the buyer codes setup screen. Prior to this, the buyer needs to be defined as an IDEAS user. If you are willing to have further details about how to create a new user in IDEAS, then you could refer to the appropriate video from the system security section. So as I said, the new buyer needs to be defined as an IDEAS user. So in case you enter an invalid IDEAS user, you will get the error message saying that this is not a valid user. So from the drop-down list or from the spyglass, you select the buyer or the user you need to define as a buyer. After that, you provide the name, full name. You could provide phone, fax, and email, but these are optional. And I invite you to do that in case when you will be designing the purchase format in the system, in case you need to print somewhere the buyer code details and you want it to be variable depending on who created the purchase order. So in that case, it will be useful to define phone, fax, and email. You can choose to define the buyer as senior buyer or not. In fact, when a buyer is defined as a senior buyer, he will have full processing capabilities. So in case you have the auto approval flag on, as soon as he hits complete, the system will automatically activate the approved button. So in that case, what will happen if he has the approval limit for this document, then the system will mark this document as approved. If he does not have the approval limit, the system will raise a message saying he doesn't have the approval limits. You have also the possibility to set up approval by group, by stock groups. If you are willing to do that, you open the list and you select the items or the group families or the stock families that you are willing to cross-reference or map with this user. So once you finish, you save and the buyer is created and ready to be used. He will be from this moment able to book purchase documents, purchase requisitions, material requisition, etc. Now, the next step, in case he is an approver, is to define the buyer approval setup for him. So you have multiple options on how to do that. You could select the user from the list and then define all the needed combinations of company, purchase document, location, currency, and then amount. You can do that line by line and save at the end, and the buyer approval is defined. The other option is to have this format you see, entity, document, location, currency, and amount in Excel sheet. Prepare that and then send it over to an IDEAS consultant and he will assist you upload this to the database directly. The third option is in case you have a user that has similar approval limits, you could copy the approval limits from this user to the new buyer. So copy from that buyer to my new buyer. And when you hit OK, the approval limits will be copied. Also, you have another possibility to copy if you are willing just to copy for one entity. So you want to copy only, within the same buyer, you want to copy the approval limit he has for company 20 to company 30. Okay. So far this user has only approval limits for company 20. We have created new company, company 30, and we want to copy the same right to this company. In this case, you need to use this copy button. You can copy from one document type to one document type, from one location to one location. So far he has approval limit on this location, but I want to grant him access to this location as well. You can copy for one currency, etc. So you have multiple options. But in case you want to copy from one user to another user, you use the copy button here, and you use the target, you select the target user, and then you click OK. Do you want to overwrite in case he has already approval limit set up? Do you want to overwrite? I say yes, and then save. And as you can see, System Master now has exactly the same approval limit as the user I have copied from. So these are the two steps to define a buyer code and to define approval or edit approval limits when needed. Now, if you have approval level or approval limits on requisitions, this is to be done not from the screen but from the requisition processing screen. So when you activate the approval for purchase requisitions, you will have an additional screen here called requisition approval, and you will have in utilities another setup screen where you define approval limits for purchase requisition.